Hey guys, this is one of my videos that's up on Patreon. I decided to publish it for free on YouTube so you could get an idea of what we do over there. If you're interested in actually learning with some more long form videos, getting better at the guitar and music and career stuff in general, Patreon is the place to find all of that content. I'm doing live sessions, I'm answering questions, doing podcasts, you name it. All my students are over there, so if you're serious about wanting to learn and learn from me, Patreon is where to find me. Cool, check it out. Hello, welcome. So this is a very important video to me. This is gonna be like my day one first lesson video. And this is really important because I'm taking on new students again. And I'm taking on some old students again, some former phenoms, but I have every student do this, whether they're advanced, brand new, it really doesn't matter. It's because it's good for them, number one, but it's also kind of a test to see where they're at. And there are certain guitar things that are very important to me that are maybe less important to other people. Namely, that you can keep your picking hand moving while you're playing the guitar. And also just that we have good fundamentals. So I wanna go through all of those sorts of things. It's interesting because a lot of times people will come in and they'll say things like, oh, I've taken lessons for years. I'm already good at the guitar. When people say shit like, I'm already good at the guitar, I know they're bad at the guitar. No matter what someone says, a lot of times when I put this sort of stuff in front of them to check on their fundamentals, they can get tripped up by these sorts of things because they may just be interested in difficult music and they may be playing it, but they may be playing it in a way that is not as efficient. So they may eventually reach some kind of hurdle that they can't overcome using improper technique. Or maybe it's just they're working harder than they need to. And I tell students a lot, we want to be as lazy as possible. I don't want to make your life hard. I want to make it so you put the actual work in the practice room so that when we get on stage, you can just fucking do spin kicks and David Lee Roth shit, you know? When I'm on stage, I'm thinking about when is the next episode of Temptation Island and is the microwave fixed so I can make a bowl of Blasto butter? That's the kind of shit that I'm thinking when I'm on stage. You get the idea. Let's jump right into it. All this stuff, I will try and fly through it, but if there's anything that's gonna help you, pick what you need, fast forward through what you don't. So first, we know this is a pick or a plectrum for the Brits. We're gonna hold it like this. We'll make kind of a thumbs up sign. We'll curl our fingers here. We're gonna place the pick right here in this crease of our index finger, and then we're gonna just drop our thumb here. Our thumb's job is gonna be to hold our pick against our hand. We're not gonna be making a picking motion with our thumb. I see some guitar players doing that, and to start out, we're gonna say that that's wrong. I'm not gonna say that that's a bad thing because it's actually a very advanced technique when you do it right. You see guitar players like Cesario Filho from Brazil, and when you're combining the thumb movement with forearm movement and turning, you can get to blazing speeds that don't exist elsewhere. But this is actually day one guitar, not fucking 11,000th hour guitar. So we're gonna just start with the basics and get some good fundamentals, and then you can veer off from there. So just like this. When we're making a pick stroke, we're gonna have that movement come from our wrist, right? So if I were gonna ask you to just strum the low E string, which is this top string right here, remember this is our first day of guitar, you would go like that. Now there are 6 strings on the guitar. The names of the strings are E, A, D, G, B, E. You can remember Ernie ate dynamite, goodbye Ernie, or every acid dealer gets busted eventually, whatever. Now reading tabs is super important to me. A lot of people are like, I just learned by ear, or I watch people on YouTube, and that's great, but learning tabs is also important. Learning to read in any capacity. Learning to read standard notation I think is also really cool, but at the very least, let's learn to read some tabs so you can learn songs faster. Okay, so we're looking at this tab right now, and there's 6 lines in this staff, and there's 6 strings on the guitar. So if we're humans trying to establish patterns, we could probably deduce that each one of these lines is going to represent a string on the guitar. So just like standard notation, the lower lines on this staff or on this tablature represent the lower strings on the guitar in pitch, not lower in proximity. So the bottom line on a tab is this string because it's our lowest string in pitch. The highest one, closest to the top of the page, is our high E string. These are the same letter names, just different octaves. So We're looking at our tab, and if we see a number written on a line, that tells us what fret to play. So frets are essentially these boxes. The frets really are these gold bars, or our fret markers, I guess you could say, but these gold bars are our frets, and they separate our strings into half steps on the guitar, right? So that's a note, that's a different note, that's a different note, that's a different note. The musical alphabet runs from A to G with accidentals, meaning a sharp or flat in between every note, except for B goes straight to C, and E goes straight to F. Meaning there's not really an F flat, because that would just be an E, and there's not really a C flat, that would be a B. If we see something written in a tab that has a 0 on our bottom line, that would mean we play that. That's an open low E string. If we see something that says a 3 on our bottom line of this tab, like there's a 3, that means we count 1, 2, 3, and we go to the 3rd fret of this low E string. Then if there's a 5, well, we're going to take that same principle, we're going to go 3, 4, 5. So this first measure of the first song, we would go, because it says 0, 0, 3, 5. Okay, so if you're here on this Patreon, that's probably well beneath you, and I can understand that. Here's what we can glean from this. How are you fretting this? Are you throwing your finger down like this? Are you right on the pad of your finger? Are you curving your finger forward? Are you playing in a way that you're muting the strings underneath the string that you want to play? Are we paying attention to spreading our fingers out on our fretting hand so that we're hovering exactly over the frets that we want to play and we're not bunched up or following our fingers? Are we making sure that we're not having flying fingers where we're moving far away from the fretboard, right? Consider this. The further away you are from the fretboard, the longer it's going to take to get your fingers back. So if you're trying to play fucking fast and your fingers are going like this, well, you're probably going to be slower than the guy that's fucking just going like this. You know what I mean? Because he's barely doing anything. So we're looking at this tab here, and what else do we see? We see this little house-looking symbol above that, and we see these straight lines underneath the notes. And we see a thing that says position 3, green onions. We see the 8 times thing. Let's break all those things down. So this means quarter note equals 100. Well, what is a quarter note? A quarter note is a note value, and that's our basic unit of measurement. There are 4 quarter notes in one measure of 4/4 time. Without getting too down the rabbit hole on time signature is this thing right here, 4/4, which you've probably seen before. And these two numbers are trying to tell you that the number on the top is how many beats are in a measure, and the number on the bottom tells you what type of note counts as one beat. So if it's 4/4, that means there are 4 quarter notes in a measure. If it was 4/2, that would mean there's 4 half notes in a measure. If it was 3/8, that would mean 3, because remember the top number is how many beats are in a measure, and the bottom number is eighth notes, because it's an 8. So 3 eighth notes in a measure. We'll deal with 4/4 for I think everything in today's lesson. Okay, this little house looking symbol, that means we're gonna play downstrokes. Right? So everything that we're playing in this tab will look like this. Cool. Position 3. So positions on guitar playing are really easy. That just means our first finger is going to play the 3rd fret, and each finger behind it is going to get a fret to itself. So if my first finger plays the 3, it means my middle finger is going to play 4, my ring finger is going to play 5, and my pinky would play the 6. That also means if I had to stretch away from there, my pinky would go to 7, and my first finger would stretch down to 2, but my home base is really first finger on 3. These symbols right here, these double lines with the 2 dots, that's what's called a repeat sign. That just means repeat the whole thing, whatever's inside of those symbols. And then quarter note equals 100. That means your beat is 100 beats per minute, which would sound, well, like this. Let's see if this works. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if I were to play Green Onions using good technique, we're doing quarter notes, meaning every note is equal, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm doing downstrokes on each note. It would sound just like this. Simple enough. I'm using my first finger to play the 3rd frets, my ring finger to play the 5th frets. Everything is a downstroke. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is a really bastardized version of Dazed and Confused by Led Zeppelin. So now we're going to be in first position. So that means my first finger plays the 1s, middle finger plays the 2s, ring finger plays the 3s. It'll look like this. Okay, so the difference between this and the last one is now we are using our A string as well. And when we get to those open notes, we don't have control of how we're muting the string with our fretting hand really anymore by applying pressure or not, right? When we're playing on a guitar, if I release the pressure into the fretboard, that'll stop the note. So you may hear people play stuff like that, but we want to let the notes ring out for their full value. So that's another thing where it's like someone may think of themselves as an advanced guitar player. They might be able to play something that's difficult, but it might sound like shit because they're going rather than. And again, when we have that open E string, we can use our thumb to mute that, or we can use the top of our third finger when we get to the next phrase. Moving on, here's blues riff. This is a common blues riff in second position, so that means our first finger is going to play on 2, ring finger will play 4s, pinky will play 5s. If there was a 3, we would use our middle finger. There's not. So again, all downstrokes, right? Every beat is just 1, 2, 3, 4, down, 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 down. Check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4. So an interesting thing here to keep in mind conceptually, only the highest note that you're fretting on a guitar makes any difference for these strings, right? We're essentially making a string shorter by making it higher. Check this out. If I play the 7th fret here, anything I play behind it doesn't do shit. So when I'm going 2, 4, 5 on the A string, I don't have to lift those 2s and 4s up. In fact, if I do, you hear that dead space in between, and that's a lot less clean than. It's a lot less clean than if I leave it on and just build on top of it. So that's another great thing for you to be practicing, even as someone who might be an intermediate guitar player, or certainly somebody that has no trouble playing this. It's like, well, what can we actually improve on when we're doing these easy ass riffs? We're moving on. So now these notes look a little bit different. This next thing, blues riff. Wow, there's twice as many notes. What the hell am I supposed to do here? Well, these are called eighth notes. And the reason is there are 8 of them in a measure. So each one of these takes up 1/8 of a measure. So instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, we count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And this little house looking hat symbol, that's a downstroke. This V is an upstroke. So that's exactly the opposite. And here is really where the magic happens. Every time we've been doing a downstroke, immediately after, we've been doing an upstroke already. You may or may not have noticed this, but to get in position to do another downstroke, you've had to do an upstroke. Check it out. So if I go, see that space in between? My hand's already been doing that. I just have to choose to strike the string on my way back up. And now I've doubled my notes without actually going and feeling like I'm doing some jagged, rushed bullshit, right? So now let's try that with eighth notes, and then we're really going to be cooking here. So I'll count you in. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Cool. Now, as we're getting a little bit more comfortable and we've got a few riffs under our belts and in our fingers, I think best practice for playing these single note riffs is to anchor your hand on your bridge, right? Maybe this part here, and then let your hand sort of fall. If you're feeling like you're getting a lot of resistance from the pick, your pick may be too flat, so what you can do there is just push your thumb forward so that the edge of your pick is slicing through. Rather than, you can hear the string is kind of stopping my pick. And then the other thing that we can keep in mind is when we're doing eighth notes, and really strumming or picking a guitar in general, we can think of our picking hand as the pendulum of a grandfather clock, and the string just happens to be directly in the center of that pendulum. So As we're doing eighth notes, my hand is swinging and moving consistently the entire time, right? Watch my picking hand. I'm not stopping for anything, and my downstroke is starting above the string, my upstroke is starting below the string. I don't start any pick stroke right from on the string, because that would force me to really put some tension to like push through that string. I'd really much rather have like a nice smooth slice rather than a battering ram type feel. Okay, we're moving on to Money, That's What I Want. Sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. So we're in third position. First finger plays the threes, middle finger plays the fours, ring finger plays the fives. What makes this one different is that we have some phantom strokes, I like to call them. And Guitar Pro is great because it puts them in parentheses. So you can see that you don't actually have to hit the string, but we are going to keep our hand moving because our pick strokes are attached to time. That is like my big thing, that when we're playing on the beat, 1, 2, 3, or 4, it's going to be a downstroke. When we're playing on the and, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, it's going to be an upstroke. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 you can always check that math and it's going to work out. And then as soon as you subscribe to that and your picking hand is just always moving, it'll feel the same as tapping your foot and you'll be really locked in. It'll feel like your body's internal metronome and you really don't have to worry about your picking hand anymore until you start doing, you know, economy picking stuff or triplets or something that breaks that cycle. But you're going to want to get in that cycle as early as possible. So that's why sometimes you'll see me start a song like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 and 2 and 3. I'm already in it. 2 and 3 and 4. And my hand just keeps going. You know what I mean? I don't have to do anything else. I want you to practice that because that's the one that trips everyone up because they want to go, and now I'm backwards. People think that just because the note playing has stopped, that your picking motion stops. But that is not the case. We go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You just decide whether you're striking the strings or not. Okay, we're gonna keep moving on. Lady Madonna. If you want to do it with the 16th note hammer on, like in the song, it'd be. And that hammer on exists in between our pick strokes because it's a 16th note thing. So we'd have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Cool, moving on, then we got Machine Gun. This dot right here above a note is a staccato mark. So that means to just cut the note short. We would do this in first position. It would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Cool. And then I'll give you just a couple more. We'll skip around here. Day Tripper, we have a lot of phantom strokes here, but I wrote it out so you can count every eighth note. And it's good when you're first learning to do this and keep your hand moving in time that you do count every eighth note. We can go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. You know what I mean? Down, up, 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 down, up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Cool. Same thing with Super Freak. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Hand keeps moving. Second position. Just like I'm strumming. Cool. Crazy Train. Make sure we're picking wide enough that we can get above and below the strings that we need to, right? We're not stuck in between strings, so. That's a really good one for making sure we're right over the frets that we need to play, that we're not following our fingers around. I mean, other than that, we got some palm mutes on Feel Your Love Tonight. You can put your palm or this part of your hand on the strings. The further you go this way, the more muted it's gonna sound. The further you go this way, closer towards the bridge or past the bridge, it will become unmuted. And that's basically it. Those are like really the principles for the first day, week, maybe 2 weeks if you're brand new to guitar. Quick recap for everybody. Make sure that you're playing in the right position, that you're not really scooting around horizontally if you don't need to. You wanna make sure your fingers are hovering over the frets that they're about to play. You wanna make sure that you always keep your picking hand moving and that you're picking downstrokes on the beats, upstrokes off the beats. Keep your hand planted on the bridge, probably lightly. You know, you don't have to push down hard because that's gonna get you a palm muted sound unless you're going for that. Hand planted on the bridge for single note stuff, and always keep your hand moving. Remember that grandfather clock idea, that it's the pendulum swinging and the string happens to be directly in the middle. Make sure that you're picking wide enough to get above and below the strings that you need. Play on the tips of your fingers, don't fly away from the fretboard, and your rhythm stuff. Quarter notes, eighth notes. Quarter note is 1 beat in 4/4, eighth notes are half a beat in 4/4. And that's pretty much it. That's a really great start along with these riffs. And make sure to be listening, practice along with the metronome if you don't have access to Guitar Pro. And that's all. That's such a good start. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I know most of you probably know most of this, but hopefully we got 1 or 2 tips that will make your guitar playing sound better. And remember, whenever you're practicing, you can be thoughtful of all of this shit. Even if it's songs that you already know, we can sound better or make things easier or just get a little closer to second nature on all these good habits. So, thank you very much. Enjoy. Wow, did you learn something? If you enjoyed that, check out the Patreon for more. We're dropping videos like that literally every single week. We have a humongous back catalog that we just keep adding to. We can't stop. We're addicted to the shindig. We'll see you on Patreon.